Hey, it's Travel Gigolo and we are at Punda Maria campsite, which is pretty much the most northern campsite in the Kruger National Park. From Joburg, up the N1 all the way to Polokwane or to Makado, turn off to the right, go east until you get to Punda Maria Gate. It's quite a long drive, and from the gate it's about 10 kilometers to the campsite itself. The road here is entirely tar, so like I said, N1 a lot of the way, and then tarred roads from there all the way to the gate, and from the gate to the campsite itself is all tarred road as well. So in this case, it's only once you hit the campsite that for the first time you are on unpaved surface. So this is one of the larger campsites at the Kruger National Park, or one of the main campsites, let me put it that way. It's our first time actually camping at a main campsite. We almost always go to the smaller ones that are a little bit more quiet and maybe a little bit more secluded as well. This camp has a lot of campsites with electricity and a few without electricity as well. So when you book, you've got to specify electricity or no electricity. However, when you get to the campsites, it's not exactly clear which sites do not have electricity. There are a couple that are near the gate that clearly don't have electricity, but there is, I think, a bit of difficulty with defining which campsites must have electricity and which campsites must not have electricity. The reason for this is that the electricity points typically have 4 plug points on them, and usually that's amongst a set of 5 or 6 campsites. So it's kind of difficult to tell who's supposed to get the electricity and who's not. So I guess in that way it's an honesty thing, and generally when we camp we find that most people are quite honest. The campsites do not have lighting, so if you want lighting, if you need lighting, then you've got to bring your own. There isn't a tap per campsite, so there is a shared area which is a kitchen which has taps and so on. We don't have a tap near our campsite, so I'm not entirely sure if there are central taps at the other campsites, but we haven't seen any. So for the most part, if you want water, you've got to go to the wash-up area. Speaking of the wash-up area, so that is typically what is a kitchen area at most of the campsites, and you would normally find there a wash-up area and a set of stoves and sometimes a microwave and sometimes some deep freezers as well. At this campsite, at the wash-up areas, it's just a set of basins. The rest of the facilities, or it looks the same as the other campsites, but the rest of the facilities are not there. So not sure if that's peculiar to this campsite or if they used to be there and they're not there anymore, but all there is now is a set of wash basins with gas-fired hot water. Ablutions, there are shared bathrooms as usual with these types of campsites, and there is 2 sets of shared bathrooms, the one that's slightly larger than the other. There is hot and cold water there. We've had a bit of trouble with the hot water. In fact, we haven't really had hot water. At best, it's been lukewarm. In fact, most of the time it's been a bit less than lukewarm, which has been fine because it's been fantastically warm in the couple of days that we've been here, and we're here in winter, except for today that we're filming when it is completely clouded over. So we're here on a long weekend, and the campsites are pretty much full, and we haven't had hot water a single time, or really hot water in the bathrooms. And everyone we've spoken to has not had hot water in the bathrooms as well. Hasn't been a train smash because, like I said, it's been quite warm, and we're in the northern part of the Kruger, which is really warm. I think today is the first day that it's cold and overcast. So hot water, What do the bathrooms have? They have showers, they have a bath, they've got toilets as well, and they also have a set of wash basins. The bathrooms are in fairly good condition. They're well maintained, very clean in the time that I've been here. So well done to SANParks, bathrooms look really good. So let's talk about the campsites themselves. So we have elected to camp a bit away from the main crowd, and we do like that. We like the campsites that are a bit more quiet and where there's less lighting or extraneous lighting from other people's campsites. So the campsites on this side of the camping area have really nice shade. In fact, all of the campsites have really nice shade. This one's nice and secluded, and there's a couple more secluded campsites behind me and around me. And there are a bit more that are in a sort of a main area where it's a bit more open, but there are trees, so there is shade for every campsite that we've seen. There's no grass, no lawn, so it is pretty much just dirt at the campsites. Our campsite has a concrete block, which is one of the reasons that we chose it. So there's a little concrete plinth here on which we've put our tent. We've seen one other campsite with that, but most of the campsites do not have anything besides just the bare ground. In the general area, the campsites are not delineated, and this is typical of most SANParks campsites. So they're not demarcated. There isn't a specific outline that says that this is a campsite. So it is a bit of a mishmash, and I think people, you know, the campsites are demarcated by then being a braai stand. So that's the only reason that you know that this is a campsite. So there can be a bit of overspill from one campsite to the other. Along the edges here, it's a bit better delineated because there's a bit more trees. So the trees do kind of create an area that is clearly a campsite where you would set up your tent or your caravan or whatever the case is. The size of the campsites, of course, varies. The campsite that we are in, I would say, is about 15 meters by 10 meters, which is a fair size. Some of the other quieter campsites are about the same size, and when you go into the general area, well, it's impossible to tell how big a campsite is. Having said that, there are a lot of people camping here with caravans or with large bushlarper type trailers, and there doesn't seem to be a lack of space. So certainly the campsite is big enough for the amount of campers it's supposed to accommodate, which is about 50 campsites altogether and a maximum of 6 people per camp. Of course, in the more general camping area, you will be a bit closer to your neighbors, and walking through there at night to the hide, there certainly is a bit more noise. So there's a sort of continuous hum of people speaking and that sort of thing. And it's a lot lighter as well because a lot of people have their lights on. Whereas on this side of the campsite, it is a little bit quieter. It's the western side. It is quite a bit quieter, and there's very little light as well because people are a bit further interspersed and there's quite a bit of trees. So what can you purchase here? There is quite a well-stocked shop that has ice and wood and charcoal and firelighter and snacks and meat and drinks and a whole lot of stuff, as well as trinkets and clothing specific to the Kruger Park if you want a t-shirt to say that you've been here, had the park, etc, etc, etc. There's also a restaurant. We haven't been to the restaurant itself, we've just kind of passed by it because it's not really our thing. We prefer to camp and braai and do our own thing, but there is a restaurant on site if you prefer that, and we have seen a number of people actually go there for dinner, for example, and lunch. There's a fuel station on the site, so you can get fuel here at the campsite, so no need to worry too much about fuel. It is available, and it's available during the daytime or when the office is open generally. There's also reception office, so this is not one of the camps where you've got to check in somewhere else and then come to the site. The reception is here at the site. You can book game drives and that sort of thing as well at the reception, and there are a couple of walks, I believe, as well. We would have loved to have done that. Unfortunately, time and our sort of preferences of driving around and getting to see a lot of the area haven't really made that an opportunity for us, but I think that's something great that we will try in the future. There's a swimming pool, actually a nice big swimming pool on the site, which is great because it is really hot here. Our first couple of days here, it was blazing hot and a fantastic relief from the Joburg winter actually. So there's a really nice pool here too. There are a couple of small towns on the way here, depending on which way you come, say 20 or 30 kilometers away from the gate. You don't really need that because most of what you would need, you would find in the shop over here. Unless you had a very specific need, but like you need to replace a tire or something, then you would have to drive that 20 or 30 kilometers. Otherwise, most of what you need you will find here at reception and the shop and the restaurant and so on. Gate times are typical as per the rest of the Kruger National Park. So we're here at the time that we are here. You've got to be back in at 6 p.m. and you can go out at 6 a.m. So it depends, of course, on what time of the year you are here. We are here towards the end or the latter part of winter, and those are the gate times that apply. What kind of vehicle do you need to come to Punda Maria campsite and to drive around in this area? Basically any kind of vehicle. There are a set of tarred roads and there are also gravel roads, but none of it is particularly difficult to traverse. You could do it in pretty much any car with reasonable clearance. I wouldn't come here with a BMW M3 or something like that, for example, but if you have a normal city-going sedan or a 4x4, an SUV, whatever the case is, you will easily traverse all of the roads. You can easily bring a caravan or a trailer or a small trailer or a large trailer or an off-road trailer. It is quite trailer and caravan friendly too. So this part of the Kruger is famous for birding, and I can attest to that. You can pretty much just sit in your campsite, especially in the morning, and the birds will come to you. There is a plethora of birds and it's been really great from that point of view. So the North has lived up to its reputation for great birding for us in the time that we've been here. There's a hide and it overlooks a watering hole, which is quite a substantial watering hole as well. That is a really nice feature at this campsite. So we've been to the hide over the nights that we've been here, and we've seen quite a bit of elephant, for example, and a couple of other animals. We've seen a leopard, which was fantastic as well. And because it's really dense vegetation in the northern part of the Kruger, it's actually quite difficult to see leopards and cats in general. So it's really nice to see a leopard at the hide. So definitely a notable feature of this campsite is a really nice hide. This is a fenced campsite, so I wouldn't say there are any particularly significant dangers and hazards. Of course, there are monkeys and they get up to monkey business, so you've got to be really careful about where you keep your stuff and not having it exposed and not giving the monkeys an opportunity to come and steal your food, for example. We haven't seen any snakes, we haven't heard of any snakes. It is quite a large campsite, a lot of people, but I suppose you could come across a snake, but we haven't seen any or heard of any in the time that we're here. In fact, we almost never see any or hear of any snakes in the campsites. It's only once at Marula when there were a couple of snakes, black mamba and a puff adder. And the black mamba kept coming back and the puff adder. But otherwise, no snakes in most sandparks campsites. Oh yes, and a black spitting cobra at Tankwa Kuru at Langkloof. Check out my episode on that. That was a really nice sighting. So if you're worried about snakes, stay in the more general populous area of the campsite, but really, I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. Because this is a large campsite and there are 50 camps, as I've said, it can get a little bit noisy. I think in general, it's been pretty good. On the first night that we were here, there was a group of people that was really noisy. And there was only one group of people though, out of 50 campsites. So that's kind of a 2% failure rate. Otherwise, it's been pretty good. So in terms of enforcing the rules, there was someone that came around to quiet them down, and then they would be quiet, and then the guy would go away and then they would start making a noise again. But so there is some enforcement of the rules. So what type of camper is this for? Basically anyone. The only thing you've got to be cognizant of is that you've got to have your own lighting. Other than that, I think pretty much anyone can camp here. You don't need any kind of special setup. Our camp setup is very basic and it's quite sufficient for this campsite. So, quick recap. What is here? There are ablutions, there is a wash-up facility, there is electricity, there is shade, there's a swimming pool, there's a great hide, there is a shop, there's a restaurant as well. What there isn't is lighting. And in addition to not having lighting, there isn't very hot water at the showers. There is also a braai, so every campsite has a braai stand, and our campsite has a braai stand as well, but we always braai in our trusty little Go Anywhere Weber, which is a nice little thing to have and very convenient, but there are braais as well at each of the campsites. How to book? Go to the Sandparks website and you can book in there. I'll leave a link below for the Punda Maria camp. Otherwise, of course, you can email them or you can phone in as well and make a booking. So would I recommend Punda Maria campsite? Yes, I would. It's our first time at one of the larger campsites. We prefer to be in the smaller, less populous campsites, and this has been a pretty good experience. Granted though, we've had a campsite that's fairly away from the bigger crowd, so maybe not so much if we're in the bigger crowd, but would I recommend it? 100%. I loved it, especially liked the bird hide. So, hope you enjoyed this episode, hope you found it informative as well. Hit the like button if you did, leave a comment or question below. Always nice to have feedback from you guys, and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and those of you that have subscribed, thank you, really appreciate the support. And until the next episode, go everywhere, see everything, have a great time.